Hello, good listeners. Shanga here. Um, Hopping on with a village voice note. Um, Welcome back to Magical Reality TV for the Revolution. Like I said, I'm Shanga, artistic director of Otherworldly Giants, and this is another unfolding breath of our 2-week series, The Truth About What Art Can Do in Times of Genocide. Now, it's February 1st, and our 2-week series officially closes on February 5th, which is next Wednesday. It's Saturday right now. And when we close this series is also the day that we close doors to our 4-month ancestral think tank and artist retreat when we lived and died in the thriving village. So I guess so the retreat starts in exactly 1 week, next Saturday, February 8th, and doors close on Wednesday. So I guess that's like 4 days. So in today's Village Voice Note, I wanted to take you through the details of what it's like to be an ancestral artist retreat for me, with me. So this is like, if you are considering joining, or even, if you're just like curious about like what, how I would curate this kind of space just for your own like interest and curiosity. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Um, Yeah. So it's funny because I actually sat down with the energy of the folks, of people who want to join. And so, P.S., that's, if you're running any kind of sacred space, I really recommend that, right? Is always tune into the energy first, of who you want in your space, and that's a really great way to like design your promo and stuff, right? Because it's just based on like the authentic, sincere conversations you're having with one another in spirit, or like how you're feeling their spirits, right? So it's funny because today I was like tuning into their energy, and I was like, who's here? And people were like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. Wait, what are we doing? I was like, good question. So that's why I wanted to do this a village voice note. I wanted to take you through yeah, like what it would actually be like to be in this space where we're in communion with our thriving village, right? So first let me just like break down the logistics. It's all online. So we're gonna meet on Zoom. Our first session, like I said, is next Saturday, February 8th. That's my grandma's birthday, and who is an ancestor. And so this is a 4-month container, and we meet every second Saturday between February and May. And so if you want to see the exact dates of each of those Saturdays, you can look at my website. And we're going to meet 2 to 4 p.m. every other Saturday from February to May. And I'm going to keep the Zoom room open an hour before and an hour after. So the whole thing is 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern time every other Saturday. And those extra hours before and after are optional. I just wanted to offer that because I just like really want to offer us like really spacious entries and exits. Um, so in the hour beforehand, I'm going to, have some music going or sound healing. And I decided this, because when I sign up for things, on Zoom, or especially if it's a ceremonial space, my brain is usually like, okay, I have to be there at 2 p.m. And so then I get there at 2 p.m., but then I'm like, oh shit, like I'm hungry, or like I wanted to do some grounding, or just like tune into my own energy before I enter. And often I will start to feel that the energetic like attunement and the energies and the ancestors like coming through you like my space like an hour before I enter anything. Like I start getting downloads, or I feel that presence in my body. So I just like really wanted to honor that, and give our brains and our ancestors like that extra spaciousness to come in and land. So you, yeah, have that extra time for yourself. You can like take it to like settle in, hydrate, breathe, do like any like self-care, whatever things you want to do. And of course, that's optional, right? So we'll always start with a grounding, like an official grounding, when we start at 2 p.m. And that's also when we'll start recording. So if you have to miss a session, we'll record the 2 to 4 p.m. Uh, portion, so you can see what you missed. And yeah, so you can always roll in just at the beginning point if that's what works for you, but that extra space is there. And same with afterward, in case there's any overflow in conversation or you want to ask me any questions or that kind of thing. I like to have that extra space just so we're not like, oh my God, like time, too worried about the clock or whatever, because this is like ancestral unfolding, right? So we're not gonna, you know, um, get too wild with it, like be in ceremony for hours and hours, which that happens, but we'll have that, little extra space. Okay, so that said, I want you to think about this 4-month program as your and our butterfly sanctuary. That's actually the umbrella name for the, Otherworldly Giants in-house artist retreat space. It is our butterfly sanctuary. So that's what you're joining if you join this retreat. So I really want you to take this space as your personal time to be in artist retreat and be in connection with our most playful, easeful, powerful, and peaceful revolutionary ancestors who know how to keep us very firmly on the path where all of our blessings live, including the blessings that we have for the planet as a whole. So this is for you to have this space for yourself and to know that you have a space twice a month, that is like a dedicated, supported time to for you to be nurtured and nurture your own practice and develop your spiritual and creative technologies. Well, your spiritual creative technologies, right? So that's the fun part, right? We're really like looking at these spiritual aspects of all our creative technologies. Okay, so for those who join, I really want you to think about what it is that you want to bring into this 4-month period that you want to work on, and get support on, right? So whether it's like a memoir, or a business that you're running or incubating in the process of, launching, whether it's an art project, or any leadership work you're doing, whether it's some kind of movement that you're like leading in the world, or either that you want to bring forward more into the world, um, a daily practice, or just a commitment to life that you have right now. I love that. Like, what's your commitment to life? Mm. So think about what that might be for you, right? So yeah, if you decide to join, I recommend that you set an intention before you begin on like what really is your focus for the next 4 months. Um, and yeah, kind of look into yourself in terms of like what really is important to you in terms of your intention or what you want to experience in life in the next 4-month period. What would really bolster your life, and just make it more like nourishing all around. What would you want to bring into your life to brighten more thriving in your life? So some questions are like, what do you want to see bloom? What really matters to you right now if you cut away all the noise? What really matters? What needs attention? What needs a regular space of feeding and getting fed? What needs nurturance? What part of your soul needs to light up? What do you need to bring from the underground up into like a fully functioning and thriving ecosystem? what do you want to make material? So what you bring can be anything, right? It can be a big thing that you're working on, a big promise that you're carrying for your lineage or your ancestors. And it can be a very small thing too, right? Something that's very, very dear to your heart. And that if you feed it, it has a big impact on your life and life on the planet. Small things. So that's really it. I want those to who join to bring something that matters to your heart. That's the simplicity of it. What matters to your heart dearly and sincerely right now. And that's the intention of the Butterfly Sanctuary. That's the spirit behind it. True sincerity of heart. Um, because every single session, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna bring something that I'm working on, um, a piece of my medicine, whether it's a story or a script, a learning or a teaching that matters dearly to my heart and sincerely to my heart. So I'm going to bring something of that caliber to every single Saturday that we meet. And then I'm going to do what I do best, which is take us through a 2-hour journey with the medicine that I bring. And here's where I get to shine in my joy, because I am an artistic curator, and I fucking love that shit. Whether it was when I'm 18 years old making mix CDs, right? For like 15 of my best friends for the holidays. Don't you love it when you're 18 and you had 15 best friends? I mean, I know not everybody did, but I'm like, I have 2 people that I talk to regularly now. Anyway, um 15 of my closest friends. But you'd make those like mix CDs and curating the playlist, and by the end you have like this whole sound healing journey, and it takes you through this like plot line and emotional whatever. So that kind of artistic curation, or whether it was like the years that I spent working as a producer for queer, BIPOC, disabled performance art, which I did for a number of years. I produced burlesque and drag shows, and the curating part of it was my favorite part. Um, and it's really what I did best as a producer, just like visioning the whole artistic journey of it. And what I really loved about those that kind of curation was the ancestral collaboration, right? So I'd curate a show, right? And there'd be like all these different performers. Um, and I co-curated. I had a business partner, creative partner back then too, that I did that show with. But yeah, we'd bring in all these different performers, right? And we'd see the magic of the storytelling unfold in this like miraculous, mysterious way that storytelling medicine works, right? Like somehow everything that everybody brings to the stage is just so divinely orchestrated, right? So we'd have someone like come in and do a piece like on ancestral rage, right? And then we'd have somebody come in and do this like amazing comedy act. And then someone else would bring it down to just like quiet simplicity. And then we'd have a group number to like build up the energy, and then Shanka comes on stage and brings the house down with a closing number. I always liked, yeah, I love closing the show. I can't help it. I love closing shows. And nobody ever really knows what to expect from me, but like somehow I make people cry, I make people laugh, I make people cheer. And my medicine, when I perform like that, and the show, as a whole is really like it helps people to remember how alive we are. Um, and people leave that kind of curation feeling thoroughly cleansed. And so, what I didn't really understand about the medicine back then that I do now is that it's a cleansing agent, right? It's an enlivening agent and it's a cleansing agent. Um, and so that's what I'm excited to do in this artist retreat space. Like, so it's not a stage show, right? It's me on Zoom every, second Saturday, and it's not a mixed CD from 1999. At least I don't think it will be. But it's that spirit, right? It's that spirit of curation, and that's my medicine that I'm gonna bring every time, is just like me being really excited about being an artistic director, right? Of my own of this sacred space, and inviting you into it, and really offering you a really, really good meal every time. And here's the beauty of our collaborative medicines, right? Like, this is what I'm calling ancestral organizing for liberation, and the concept of a storytelling tincture. Um, that every time I bring something to the space that is a sincere, that matters sincerely to my heart, when I share that with you, it awakens and unlocks whatever that is in you, right? So the intention reaches you, and it unlocks something in you that is your translation of that intention. And so every time you come into the space, you know that your most sincere intentions are being served. So it is a ceremonial space. It is one where, we're inviting our ancestors in. So um, I will always open and close with a grounding and gratitude, and invitation for our most benevolent, and miraculous ancestors to come through. And so that grounding is, to protect our energy, to protect the sacred space. It's a time for you to be able to just like energetically remove anything you don't need to carry during our time together, remove any distractions from the day, really tune into like the intention of like, this is for you. And in that grounding, what I'm excited to do, which I have not done in a space that I've held before, is because I just started this practice this year. Well, not this year, several months ago. Um, I'll share a song for the nine directions, which is really cool because we're in our year of nine, right? And the nine directions are the nine directions on an altar. So, like northeast, southwest, and then the four corners. Um, and that's really, it's a song, to offer something to every direction, which also helps our space, be, and our intentions be protected, and nourished from all nine directions of an altar. So I open the space. And then, I will bring whatever spirit moves me to share and workshop with you, and take you on that kind of curated journey, right? So I might bring in a raw draft of a script that I just wrote, or an episode of Magical Reality TV that is already published on the podcast. And I'll lead us through a process of script study. And this is my technology, right? This is what I call open heart surgery storytelling. So basically, we perform surgery on the script. So, I'll guide us through this process. I'll say, okay, let's look at this. Let's pull out this study question from the story here. Let's pull out this reflection question. Let's look at this. What's going on here from a angle of self study or global study, right? Or multiverse study. Those are really fun, right? Let's like apprentice the quantum technologies that are going on here in this story. Let's look at the riddles. Let's look at the parables that are in there. Let's unlock the codes of liberation. Let's really talk about it, right? So we're pulling out the ancestral medicine, and as part of how the energy healing and the curation is happening, right? So I'll take you how I think as a dramaturg and a director. Um, but also a ceremonialist, so I'm not just any kind of dramaturg, which is, if you don't know what a dramaturg is, it's basically someone in theater who comes in and gives feedback to the director and the company on um, on how to, workshop the story that they're creating. But divinatory dramaturgy, right? And I love looking at my stories that I've written from the perspective of a director as if I didn't write them. I'm like, "Oh, wow, what did that character mean when they said that?" Right? But I also have the insight of the writer, right? So I have so much insight around the backstories and like the different kinds of medicine going on with each character. But I also love looking at it like I'm like, "Wow, what did you mean by that?" Right? It's so fun. I just really enjoy that. So stuff like that, right? Like, what do you think about this character? Do you believe what they're saying? Um, where does it land in you? What does this teach us about who we are, where we are, why we are, right? Um, so there's a component of our time that will be just listening. So you can sit back, relax, grab your tea, get comfy in your, pajamas or whatever makes you feel sexy or whatever. No judgment. However you want to show up is wonderful. But, get comfy. I'll perform like a live reading to a script. Or I will bring in like audio clips for us to listen to, and then I'll guide us through the script study. And while I do that, it's not there. I'll bring in a number of different exercises that we can play with to workshop. So some of it, yeah, sure, we'll like have a conversation about it. At some point, I might say, let's take 10 minutes and journal on this question, or let me play this like 5-minute clip, and I want you to feel the ancestral frequency, and then, let's take a few minutes and get quiet and just like listen to our ancestral listening. Um, let's practice that, right? Let's practice receiving how our ancestors want to communicate with us through the opening of, the medicine that I share, right? So whether it's clairvoyance or clairsentience, which is feeling, I believe, right? Yeah, or whatever clair you are, or however your ancestors decide to communicate with you, and there's no right or wrong. You don't have to be an expert. um you just have to feel, like purposed and happy to be in a space like this, right? So just, yeah, listen and feel, and you'll have my guidance, to do that as well. And then, some other time I might say, let's bring in an activity from my community garden. So community garden is part of uh yeah, part of my business, that I'm growing all these different kinds of activities that I've been like working on and studying. So for example, there's a planetarium in the community garden, and that's where I'm like, okay, let me do an impromptu quantum birth chart reading for someone. That's my practice with decolonizing astrology. So you can look at all the activities on my website, that I might bring in, and so that's just like really to bring more play, right? Um, another activity is like a mock rehearsal. This one is really fun. I really hope that we can do this one where I'm like, "Okay, I have a script. 2 people come forward, and why don't you read these 2 characters, and I'll direct, and we'll, pretend we're like auditioning for like a big show or something." And we'll workshop in that way, and so you'll get to play around, you know, and what it's like to, embody different characters, or just like be directed. Or if you're an actor or whatever, like, or any kind of like artist, it's a time for you to just, practice and go deeper. But the difference about this kind of rehearsal room, right, is that we pull out the ancestral medicine that's coming through. So it's not just any kind of rehearsal. Sometimes I'll say, "Okay, let's have some quiet time, let's do some co-working." Um, or, let's study this principle of ancestral artistry. Let's look at this technology of ceremonial entrepreneurship. What are you guys working on? Like, what projects are you working on? Let's like, when we're all in this space together, I'll be able to hear more about like what you're actually working on, and I'll be able to be like, "Oh, we should really, I could really bring in this activity to help you out with your project or whatever." But yeah, so my job is really to let spirit lead and curate every um session. I'm not going to prepare I'm not going to over plan like what we're going to do in each session. I'm going to feel into it each week to see like what do I want to bring into the session, and it can be like, interactive. You can give me your feedback throughout the process, and yeah, just like guide a really beautiful experience for us every single time. Um, yeah, we could do like one day we can do a vocal exercise or movement practice or breathing practice. It's really just like full-bodied artist retreat that's very easeful and spacious and restful and nourishing. It's how I really want to feel, and that's, where my heart is, so it's what I'm going to bring. And so, as for the deeper spirit unfolding in this butterfly sanctuary, all of it is really like all of the curation is designed to attune us to listen to our inner thriving village, our memories of how we responded to life, in all its ups and downs, deep in our bones, our cellular celestial memory, like when we lived and died as thriving villages. How did we move? How did we respond to things, right? And so every kind of exercise that I take us through will help us like tune into that wisdom and seek counsel, right? And be in active so you basically are like, I have a space twice a month where I get to be in active regular communion with my inner thriving village. I know that that place space is there for me, like regardless of how busy or noisy my day goes. Especially if you're like, it's it's wild out there if you're like spiritually open, you know what I mean? And it's hard to stay attuned to the guidance that is really deeply available to us. It's really hard to do it alone. Um and here it's like you don't have to do a whole bunch of work to like ground and listen and clear yourself. You have this powerful grounding agent and this powerful cleansing agent and this powerful attunement that you can trust every second Saturday is just going to be there for you. And all your job is just show up and relax and just be there, right? So, this isn't anything like you don't have to prepare for anything. You don't have to like worry about if you're falling behind or, all that kind of stuff is like, no, this is just for you to have that extra support in your life. Um, and know that you have a place that is very strongly purposed to help you connect with that level of ancestor guidance, the thriving village within. And so throughout the 4 months, your presence with the thriving village will strengthen in your daily life more and more and more. Um, yeah, and each session will like bring us deeper and deeper into that resonance. And what I estimate is that at the end of this process, there will be some sort of materialization of thriving in our daily lives based on what you're calling into being, and based on those sincere, heartfelt intentions. Um, and that's like the miracle and the mystery, right? Is like, okay, what's going to emerge? Um, so yeah, that's really like what's on my table in 2025 is apprenticing the spirit of thriving. Who is thriving as a spirit, as an ancestor herself, right? I love that question. How does thriving want to feed you right now? How is thriving available to you right now? And how does she need our arms and our heart open for her? That's really the question that's on my table. Um, and so that's the spirit moving through this entire container. On top of that, 1 or 2 of our sessions, will be devoted to workshopping my focused research study, which is the universal badass income. So my research is around thriving on all levels and also looking quite sincerely at financial thriving. Um, and what I mean by that is that I really want business models. Um, Let me say that differently. I have been apprenticing and downloading new business models that I'm saying are worthy of our humanity in ways that right now, our practices around how we exchange money, just not quite there yet. And this is really coming from like my really deep ancestral initiation around sacred reciprocity. So that's one of my biggest planetary directives in life. But for sure, the last um, 5 years, received a big ceremonial initiation around like my deep commitments to sacred reciprocity in my lineage, in my life, but also in relationship to like the planet herself. Um, and I'm really invested in transforming and shifting the way that we exchange resources to better express and embody this spirit of sacred reciprocity. And it's not just about money. It's about so many deeper things. It's about our deeper wealth, right? Um, uh, our wealth of relationships, our wealth of knowing who one another are in our true ancestral expression. But the universal badass income is really about putting a financial container around the things that we hold most dear so that we can be abundantly supported and protected, to just do what the fuck we need to do every day in order to answer the truer, more deeper call to spirit. Because I do see like that is a concern that I have. It's not just for me, it's a concern that I have for humanity. Um, we need to figure this out. At least I feel very purposed around that. Um, so that's part of my focused research study. Like I want to bring this vision of this business model that I've been apprenticing called the Spider Woman technology, which I am going to share more about that. I have been sharing pieces of it already, like on my podcast and stuff, and I'll put links below. But I just wrote another piece about that, and so I'm gonna share that in my next video, so you know how that's gonna work in this retreat. Um, but basically, why I'm calling it an ancestral artist retreat and think tank is because I believe that everyone joining this container is holding some kind of concern, right, in their personal body, but that is also deeply connected to a global and planetary concern. Um, so that's what I feel like people gathered here in this retreat are really looking at humanity, really looking at our relationship to the planet, um, and really looking at the parts of the body, whether the fractals, right? Like how the planet lives in us, how we live in the planet. Um, and everyone has some sort of focused research project that you're exploring with your ancestors. And it doesn't have to be like super complicated. It can be very simple, but there's a question that you're apprenticing. There's a concern that you're present with. There's a desire, a dream, a prayer that you have. What's your focused research project for 2025? Even if you could, boil it down to something very simple. For me, simple would be like sacred reciprocity, the tangibility of sacred reciprocity, right? That's that's a question on my heart. So what is it for you? And so that along with your intention of what you wanna create, I also want to invite you to bring in a question, bring in a concern, bring in a research project, right? An ancestral research project that you will be receiving ongoing counsel from your thriving village about this with my support. And those, to bring in this, it's really to say, like, it's already on your heart. It's like, what is it that's already on your heart? What is it that you're already researching with your ancestors? And so I just wanna, offer a space where you can really get supported for that. Um, yeah, so everyone's sort of workshopping something through this process, apprenticing something through this process. Um, and yeah, like twice a month, land softly. Someone is holding the space for you. You can just relax, come home, get fed, and be in that beloved communion. And I want everyone in this cohort to benefit from the success of workshopping this vision that I have, the Spider Woman technology. And what we end up with is a refined and exciting blueprint, a technology that allows us to generate rapid fire, community raised ancestral artist grants. So instead of, applying to a big funder for a grant, I want to experiment with receiving grants in a different way through the principles and energetics of the universal badass income and sacred reciprocity. So everyone who goes through this process with me can self-select to receive one of these grants. Um, and I will explain more details in the next video about how exactly that works. But by the end of this 4-month period, February to May, we'll decide, as a think tank, how that the grant thing is gonna happen and when. So I estimate it, that might happen in the fall or by the end of the year. Um, but to close our time together, we'll organize a date in June just to celebrate. And my ancestors kept using the word consecrate. So consecrate our learnings and teachings and the journey that we went through. So I'm envisioning putting together some sort of collective storytelling altar, right? We can call it a communal mural or a living orchestra. And it can be as simple as like bring some one thing that you learned, and then we create like a collective found poem, and then we have like a session where we just sit and like reflect on what the last 4 months have been, be like, "That's our mural," and we can, tune into what it might wanna look like at that point. Maybe a talent show. It's Gemini season, so, we might have to go with that, but, it's not to put pressure on anything, it's just a way to, like, honor, and consecrate our time together, which is a really important part of the closure process, right? So, like, if you go through a journey, you wanna, give yourself that, like, put something down that you made and celebrate it and really, like, take that moment to breathe it in. So that's it. That's kind of the overall journey. If you're considering joining, I would really, take a moment to sit with just the energy of like what I described and how it's landing on with you, and think about like what would it be that you would want to bring to a space like this? Like, what do you want to work on? I think some people might know right away. It's like, oh yeah, 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 I want to work on this thing. I want support for this project. Um, or I really want to like work through this concern on my heart. Um, Yeah, and the other thing I'll say in terms of, like, if you're deciding whether or not it's right for you, think about what support do you need right now for your creative process in life. The people who resonate with me, you are, like, ancestral artists, right? You are spiritual athletes. I love that term. Spiritual athletes, You are ceremonialists. You're the leader of a movement, first and foremost, the movement of your ancestors, right? When we are this kind of person, we need a team. Okay. And my friend shared this with me recently. She's like, I feel like 2025 is the year of the team. The year of the team, the year of the healed and healing team, right? The thriving team. So if you know that you're a VIPP, a very important planeteer person, you need a team, right? So think about, what do you need on your team right now in life to help you thrive in your daily ecosystem even more? And do you want me as part of your team, right? And so is what I shared with you, like this kind of vision of what the next 4 months will be like every second Saturday, is this something that you want and need in your ecosystem? Is this yeah, something on your team that would help you thrive more? And is it something that you have already been making space for, right? That's a good question to think about. So, yeah, that's the gist of it. And if you want to learn more about like what kind of scripts or what it's like to listen to my stories and what kind of, things I'd be bringing to session, I have so much free shit online that you can get to know me. Um, you can check out the 2-week series. I Yeah, there's so many goodies just in this 2-week series alone, so you can check out that website. Um, Listen to some of the different voice notes, like will show you how I communicate with my thriving village. You'll see some of the videos, like well, the last one is like just how I spontaneously will channel sometimes. Um, anyway, you get the idea. And I also have a whole podcast that I've been doing for 2 years. So there's a lot that you can check out. Just, decide if you want to learn with me. Um, yeah, that's it. If you know that this something like this is what you require for your creative process, if you know that you're making a space for this that you already have, and you want me on your team to support you with my medicine, then that would be such an honor. And I invite you to come in and get fed. All right. So I'm going to leave that there. And the next video, I will talk more about the Spider Woman technology. So come back soon, good listeners. Until next time, be brave, be a giant.